Welcome back to Cinema Flicks Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with most, the beast with the least. The least I can do is put my microphone on so you can hear me. It's actually not too bad without the microphone, and sometimes I'm better on mute, but the least I can really do is answer the questions I've had for the Q&A. The qua. Say it with me. Qua. I can't hear you. Qua. Thank you. We'll just power through them. By the way, some of these I've not looked at in advance because I thought, knowing you. So if someone asks for 20 things, you can get in 20. Time Lord 007, Simon, hello, wishes to know who would play Time Lord 007 in a movie. Simon, I've known you for a long time, being massive movie fans, massive Doctor Who fans. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, mostly ups in the last few. We've had all ups in the last few years. You've been very supportive, and I can definitely say the best person to play you, Simon, in a movie would be Whoopi Goldberg. It's perfect casting. Film blogger Sam, my good buddy. Hello, Sam. What do you think is the best movie double feature and why? I've got a big problem with double features that are too similar. See, when they do, we're going to do Alien, and then we're going to show it with Predator. So, well, that was inventive. But we're going to do one type of movie, and then we're going to show a film that's almost exactly the same movie. Piss off. I like to take a theme and double them, or an aspect and double them. So maybe it's got the same 2 stars, but it's a completely different type of movie or a theme. So my favourite double bill, and I used to do some double bills when we had our film school, when we had our film club at university. And the favourite one I programmed was The Wicker Man and The Ninth Configuration. And I don't really want to say why that's a great double bill because it spoils The Ninth Configuration, but trust me. If you could have any guest on your channel, who would it be? Apart from yourself, Sam. You'll be on here soon enough, don't worry. Any guest, crikey. Never met your idols. Do you know, I'd love to talk to Mark Kermode. Talk to Mark Kermode. He's just a film. He's just somebody to talk to a camera, writes about film the same as us, Nothing major. Music wise, see, I know some of my heroes are pricks. Springsteen. He'd be on here and it would just be an hour of me going, Bruce, why are you so fucking Bruce? Whereas I wouldn't want to meet Dylan, known prick. I wouldn't want to meet Neil Young because he can be a little bit, Neil Youngy. Sam also asks, favourite physical media release of all time. I've got a real nostalgia for one of the first kind of special editions that I ever bought. It's the GoldenEye VHS, and it's got the CD single of GoldenEye included in the box set, and it also comes with the pen in the bodice. Click. I am invincible. But the best favourite physical media release, gosh, it's hard to look past Night of the Demon from Indicator in terms of that has got everything about Night of the Demon, which is one of my favourite movies that you could possibly ask for. So I'm going to say Indicator's Night of the Demon. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best treatment of something that I love ever. It's incomparable. I could probably list about 50 for that one though. Tony McWhammy, or man me, but come on, it's McWhammy. I've known you for too long. Blamo, as he used to be known. Me and him nearly get in a fight with a couple of Polish sailors once. That's a true story in London. Best double acts in films. I mean, the obvious ones are like Laurel and Hardy. But who played best off each other? Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster, probably. Probably up there. Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan. And I'll give you one more. No, I should have read some of these in advance. I'll just go back to the Silent Number, really obvious. But this was early in the sound era. The early Jimmy Durante films, which were also the later Buster Keaton films, they were an okay double act. Best French films, also from Tony. I'm a massive fan of Les Samurai, like anything Alain Delon, who is the epitome of cool in my book. But Renoir is my favourite French film director. So Le Règle du Jeu, Rules of the Game, obviously. His anti-war films, just phenomenal stuff. I reviewed one on the channel for you last year when Ukraine was invaded, didn't it? Bresson would be up there too, so take your pick. L'Argent probably, or Pickpocket would be up there. Best dystopian film, Brazil probably, because it does have a taste of the whimsy about it as well, and the magical, but it also has the truly dark dystopian, especially when you see the proper ending. Best sci-fi film, I prefer serious sci-fi. I mean, I love stuff like Gattaca and 2001. But I do like some kind of sillier ones. Do you know, I think I will go with the silly one. First Men on the Moon, the one with Lionel Jeffries and Edward Judd and Ray Harryhausen doing the effects. I loved that movie as a kid. Best music documentary. I love Searching for Sugar Man. Much more effective if you don't know the story going in. See, The Last Waltz is a great documentary, but because I'm such a big band fan, I know that it's very one-sided and kind of bullshit. Best music documentary. God, if we're counting them as films, I also love the classic album series. I could watch the guys at the mixing desk all day, just letting you hear the vocals isolated and then pushing it up. But I will give you a definitive answer and go for Beautiful Dreamer, the story of Brian Wilson and the Smile, also reviewed on this channel before. Mike Bruce asks, are you a gig goer? If so, favourite venue, any memorable gigs? Not as much as it used to be. Don't get around much anymore. I only went a couple last year. Went to Drive By Truckers. I went to Michael Schenker last year. It's kind of, you always forget that this is now next year, you know. Well, this is always this year, but you know what I mean. Michael Schenker last year. Kurt Vile last year. Drive By Truckers. I think it was the only ones I went to last year. And then before that, with the pandemic and things, I used to be a massive gig goer, and I mean like one every week at least, maybe two, because we used to get promos when I worked in Lost in Music, and to answer your favourite venue, Glasgow Barrowlands, legendary. A few most memorable gigs. Talking about promos, we had backstage VIP passes to Jack Bruce and Robin Trower's reunion album, 7 Moons, and went backstage and met Robin and Jack, and so wonderful. Robin was a total gentleman. Sadly, Jack was brilliant. He was so lovely, and he was so happy to be back in the south side of Glasgow, where he's from. He was born and raised, but he'd had a liver transplant the year before, and he was sitting there drinking the whole time. And although he was lovely, that was a bit depressing to see, but it was memorable nonetheless. And yeah, to sit there just shooting the shit with Robin Trower and Jack Bruce was the nicest person I met at one of those backstage things, who I couldn't give a shit about seeing, and we only went because it was free. Me and Dennis that I worked with, Peter Frampton, loveliest guy in the world. He asked us, "Are you guys okay getting home at this time? It's late. Can you get a bus or anything? Do you need taxi money?" That's how nice he was, literally. The worst was George Thorogood. Yeah, total prick. Total fucking prick. I'll tell that story in full one day, because it deserves a kind of good 2 or 3 minutes to itself. Here we go. Blu-rays with Nathan Jones. So specifically Blu-rays with Nathan Jones. Hello, Nate. Favourite American. Doesn't even say actor or musician, so he just says favourite American. So I can quite easily say Nathan, it's you. Da-na, 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 behind you would be, I don't know, Carl Sagan, who's dead, so you know that gives you one up on Carl. But yeah, Carl Sagan would be up there. Yeah. Top 5 Colin Farrell performances. Here we go. He loves Colin Farrell. Loves Colin Farrell. It's going to be so easy to give you 4 of these. Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Banshees of Inisherin, In Bruges. There's 4 straight away from just the 2 famous directors that he's worked with in kind of quality films. But then one more surprising one. I thought he was amazing in that small role that he had, which kind of revealed the truth about P.L. Travers and her childhood in Saving Mr. Banks, the making of Mary Poppins with Emma Thompson. I thought he was phenomenal as the father in that. So yeah, there you go. That's my kind of dark horse Colin Farrell pick. Favourite film from Australia? It's easy to say Mad Max or something. Fury Road. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was a lot of fun. There's a lot of great exploitation as well. Yeah. Chopper with Eric Bana. That may be up there. I really loved that. Eric Bana should have been a massive star. Hollywood did not know how to use his gifts. He could have been the next Russell Crowe, man. Speaking of which, Romper Stomper 2. Least favourite music genre? I don't like least favourite things, because it just means I've probably not explored it well enough, but on the face of it, I don't understand what K-pop is. I don't see the greatness in it that separates it from normal pop that's just sung in Korean. I don't understand BTS. I don't get the things. I don't understand why they can charge £70 for an album just because it's got a different cover. I don't understand it. It's beyond me. Ernesto asks, do you buy online or do you go to a record store for your media? Again, at the moment, online, because I'm housebound. Have been for how long now? Start of December, so everything's online at the moment. Doctor's orders. Do you have a limit to how much you spend? Yes, I'm not a billionaire. Probably spend a lot more than most, but again, I don't drink and I don't smoke. May have other habits, but you know, very carefully left out some recreational things you can also partake in there. But I don't really. I'll take a tipple, but and I definitely don't smoke cigarettes. And so you know, if I do spend more than average, that's the reason why I've just got more disposable because of that. But it's probably going to come down this year because everything's getting more expensive and. Yeah, way of the world. And then your next question is, in this crazy YouTube world, what made you want to make video reviews? Simply, and luckily a lot of people have commented that that's why they subscribed to this channel, because I wasn't seeing the kind of content that I like to see. I was seeing very dry, dull, monotonous. You know, an unboxing would be, here is the front, here is the back. Like, you can have fun with it, get a bit of banter going, you know. If you can't talk to yourself, who can you talk to? At least get a smart conversation sometimes. So, you know, you just, if it catches on, great. If it doesn't, great. Again, some of my favourite videos are the ones that people haven't watched very much. Some of my absolute favourites that I've made. But yeah, so just, I suppose egotism is also the ultimate answer, isn't it? Anybody who really wants to put their face on camera and say, hey, these are my opinions, has a sense of ego. And I've never denied a massively inflated ego, but some people are just so wonderful that they can't hold it and would explode. Simon Osborne, how about a 60-second review of each Tarantino's feature film? Okay, right. I had to haggle with Simon. He wanted a big analysis of things, and I was like, oh, come on, it's a quick Q&A. Right, Reservoir Dogs, phenomenal, tight, tense. Michael Madsen is a raw nerve. Harvey Keitel grounds it entirely. Fantastic. Pulp Fiction, obvious masterpiece. Brilliant with the narratives, great performances all round. Career best from John Travolta, Bruce Willis, Jackie Brown, maybe my favourite Tarantino. Just a wonderful tribute to it, blaxploitation, without having to take on the tropes of blaxploitation too much, which would see him unfortunately do later, where he can't pay tribute to old things without just doing the old things again. Kill Bill 1, much better than Kill Bill 2, which I'm sorry, but when you meet Bill and he starts talking about fucking Superman, no, that's like, is he a stand-in for you now, Quentin? This badass that's been built up, and now he's just talking about Superman? Fuck off. Fuck right off. You know, when you set it up so well with the Michael Madsen at the end of the number 1, that woman deserves revenge. And we deserve to die. And then we have, so that's Kill Bill 1 and 2, then we have Death Proof. That's the one I'm saying can't pay tribute to a genre, just has to completely rip off the genre and just, oh, wouldn't it be fun if we had cigarette burns and it went black and white for a minute because the reel was wrong, and you know, and then it stops for a second and the reel gets changed. You know, it's like, fuck off, we know it's not real, so stop fucking. And the movie suffered for that. It was just gimmickry for the sake of gimmickry. Inglourious Bastards, A Return to Form. I like the alternate history. I loved some of the individual performances. Michael Fassbender in particular, I think he really gave it a sense of being a more grounded war film. And then Brad Pitt's The Force of Nature as what was it, Aldo Rain. And I Want My Scalps. He was great. Yeah. And then you have Django Unchained. Again, he's borrowing a lot too heavily from other movies, and it's half an hour longer than it needs to be. Django does not need to escape, get kidnapped by, oh look, Quentin Tarantino doing the worst Australian accent ever, and then get brought back. They could have just kept him there and had the exact same plot. It's half an hour longer than it needs to be. But Christoph Waltz is fantastic. Yeah, he was great. With Hateful Eight next, very tense. Again, half an hour longer than it needed to be though. A good half hour, maybe 45 minutes. And totally underutilised Michael Madsen. Don't bring Michael Madsen back for a Quentin Tarantino movie for the first time in over a decade and not give him something to do. But Kurt Russell was fantastic. Samuel L. Jackson got a meaty part for the first time in a long time in a Tarantino movie. And then we go on to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is, along with Jackie Brown, my favourite Tarantino movie. I think it's a masterpiece. So a lot like car wash. Is that what it's called? Car Wash by Jacques Demy, with Gary Lockwood. A lot of driving around LA, and it's a lovely kind of settling in movie, and just let the film wash over you. You know, it doesn't fight you, it just washes over you. And I love the alternate history of the ending, taking the celebrity away from those who are just pricks, murdering bastards, and giving it back to the people that deserve it. You know, the creators and the artists. So I love the ending. And Rick fucking Dalton was badass. But yeah. Steve Hayas, Hiya says, I have a few for you. Approximately how many CDs, albums, and movies do you struggle with finding space for everything? So, roughly, I mean, last count, I have about 6,000 Blu-rays and DVDs, and about 4,000 albums across CD, vinyl, tape. And then I've got loads of books and stuff as well. Do I struggle with finding space? Well, I've got a spare cupboard and literally built shelving from floor to ceiling, and it's like these rooms were on the top floor, so they're a good like 15 foot tall, so a lot of shelving was able to be done with that, which was great. Get it all in one place mostly for the movies anyway. Your opinion on the following bands or artists? The Manic Street Preachers, brilliant. Seen them twice. Their 90s and early 2000s stuff I just adore. From you know, If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next, Designed for Life, through Your Love Alone Is Not Enough, Not Enough, Not Enough. And I love the early, more punky stuff too, with the Holy Bible. Their later stuff feels a bit repetitive, you know, been there, done that with them, but James Dean Bradfield, one of the great singer-songwriters of the last 25 years, and they kind of stood alone in Britpop. They had a great message. Mike Oldfield, I'll be honest, I don't know much about Mike Oldfield outside of Tubular Bells, but that's fine because that's all the fucker ever does. Tubular Bells 1, 2, 3, 28, 50. Fucking hell. I saw an interview where it's like, oh, I've never been able to replicate the sound of it in my head onto record, so until I do, I'm never going to stop on Tubular Bells. And I'm like, okay, Professor Frankenstein, I'll be over in the corner, phoning the doctor. But then he had that hit single with, what's her name doing? Carried Away by a Moonlit Shadow. It's like, you could be an actual pop artist, mate. Instead of fucking, I know what I'll do. What's that, mate? Tubular Bells. Again. And he's got another one out there now. Tubular Bells 50. Fucking hell. The Waterboys. Love This Is the Sea, but the masterpiece that is Fisherman's Blues. One of my favourite albums of all time. Well, I wish I was a sailor tumbling on the sea. Mike Scott, the lead singer, although they're an Irish band, he's from Scotland, he's from Edinburgh. Phenomenal writer, phenomenal performer, great singer. I've seen him solo as well. Wonderful, absolutely sensational. People, if you don't know, Fisherman's Blues by the Waterboys. The Men That Couldn't Hang, don't know much about them, just know they're another kind of Irish punky band, a bit like the Pogues. What I've heard of liked, but I've never investigated them further. Runrig, I like the earlier Runrig, the 80s Runrig. They went on far too long, but their last concert was like 29,000 people outside Stirling Castle. You cannot imagine how huge Runrig still were in Scotland, even without their classic lineup with Donny Monroe on vocals and Pete Wishart, who's now an MP for the SNP and down in that London. You can't imagine how big Runrig were in Scotland, man. So, you know, I love their early stuff, and they were singing in Gaelic and things. Brilliant. Have you seen the 2 David Essex movies, That'll Be the Day and Stardust? And if so, how would you rate them? Thanks for the work you put in. It's no work at all. It's time, but it's not work. Believe me, none of this is work. Thank you, though. Yes, I have seen them, and I think the only issue is there's too many non-actors in it. When Ringo Starr is your actor that you're relying on to pull up David Essex a bit, you've got a bit of a problem. And the main character was it Jimmy? He was so unlikable with what he did. You know, spoilers, he leaves his wife and kids to become a star. And then the second movie, you know, turns into The Rose, you know, with Bette Midler, becomes this bigger, more American thing. And Larry Hagman from Dallas is in it, JR himself. And that's directed by the guy that did the 7 Up and 14 Up and 20, Michael Apted. some good stuff, but you know, having like Ringo, Keith Moon, David Essex, none of them were trained actors, and you just think, oh, you really needed somebody else in there, you know, like a Murray Melvin or somebody to be the friends, you know, to just bring some quality acting to proceedings. But not bad for what they were. Incredibly dated though, incredibly dated. That first film's definitely better though, much better. Marco, hello Marco. Are you a fan of silent films? And what are your favourites? Massive fan. In fact, I think I've already referenced Laurel and Hardy and Buster Keaton in this video. Favourites, I mean, you can't really see this anymore, but I love some D.W. Griffith. His work with Lillian Gish is some of the great stuff from silent Hollywood. The Erich von Stroheim that we have been left with that wasn't destroyed. And for some reason, silents are just associated with comedy for most people, but in its day, a Harold Lloyd film would be promoted more as an action film by today's standards. It was called a thrill picture, not a comedy. So people were going there to see Harold do the stunts, not to see the comedy. That was a kind of side project. So, you know, Harold Lloyd with Big Kid Brother and obviously Safety Last. Chaplin. I mean, my favourite Chaplin is Sound. It's the Monsieur Verdoux. But I do love all of Chaplin's silent work. There's a great short called 2 a.m. There's a great one where he works in a pawnbroker and a guy comes in and gets his watch fixed. I think it's just called The Pawnbroker actually. Phenomenal stuff. So yes. Buster Keaton, Sherlock Jr. Obviously. Why am I forgetting the name of it? The General. Just the General. Why am I forgetting the name of it? The train movie. It's just the General, isn't it? Yeah. What am I looking over there as if there's no help for me there? There's a pair of flip flops to wear to the bathroom. Who are your favourite film noir directors? Fritz Lang, with Woman in the Window and his work with Edward G. Robinson. Robert Siodmak with his work with Burt Lancaster and Criss Cross and The Killers and things. Phenomenal stuff. So those would be the two best. If you ever tried to write a screenplay, and if you did, what would the story be about? No, but I did pitch a film, right? And just as a, wouldn't this be funny, ha ha ha. And then last year this movie comes out and it's practically the same thing but with a slightly different franchise. Remember that movie that came out, Prey, and it was like a Predators spin-off, which is the Predators go to the Native American folk like hundreds of years ago. I thought it would be cool if the Terminator movies, right, they decided, well, we're not having much luck killing Sarah Connor, let's go back to the age just before electricity and kill that Connor and stop the bloodline there. And when I looked into it, I realised the timelines add up perfectly for electricity and the gunfight at the OK Corral. You've got Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison doing their thing, and you've got the Clantons and the Earps doing their thing. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if it turns out that the gunfight at the OK Corral was actually bullshit, and the Clantons and the Earps and everybody were all actually fighting a Terminator, and they had to come up with the gunfight at the OK Corral as a cover story. I'd see it. Gregory Davis, how did you come to hook up with? And thank you, Marco, by the way. You're a good chum. How did you come to hook up with the folks at Sea of Tranquility? I get asked this quite a few times, and I don't know is the answer. The rather embarrassingly dull answer. I had exchanged a few emails with Pete because I'd let him know about releases and things, and he had told me, this is coming out and blah blah blah. And I'd say, well, actually the UK version's got blah blah blah, so and then when I changed my name into the name of what obviously came up as looking like a YouTube channel, Cinemaflex Music Picks, rather than just David Gallagher, I'm assuming he clicked on it and saw that something on here, and asked me to be on, first of all, Curse of the Collector, was seemingly enough impressed to keep asking me to do things. Realised I was really into classic movies, so started asking me to do the Monsters Den. When it became anything classic, now I'm just in, you know, any Monsters Den really. And was on an album homework assignment, you know, so it's a really boring answer, but 'tis the truth. I'd love to say, like, well, his house was burning down and I was walking by and put it out and he said, "You're on the channel, kid." It'd be a lie. Partially. Finlay, hello Finlay. Maybe not the question you were expecting, but I have toyed with the idea of some time of starting my film only channel. Probably be a bit of horror in there and the likes, older film classics, and maybe a smattering of rubbish that I like that no one else seems to. I've enjoyed all your film videos, thank you, and I think you come across very well on the camera. Well, relaxed. Well, it's easy when you don't care about anything. Informative. Well, it's easy when you just make things up. And a good bit of chat as well. Well, if you can't talk to the camera, I mean, it's just an iPad, you know. Why be ashamed? Have you any advice for a complete noob on how to get started, etc.? Yes. Do what you want to do, and don't listen to anybody else. So please take my advice about not taking anyone else's advice. The most important thing to do is that you care about it, and if you care, then if it doesn't do well at the start, you won't be pissed off. You won't feel like, oh, I'll give up, because there's a massive amount of people who only make a few videos and then they don't do well and they stop. So don't do your favourite stuff first, because then you'll have already covered your favourite shit. So keep that for later. Do something middling that you care about but not too much, and get your friends to promote it, get people to subscribe straight away, that everybody, you know, annoy the fuck out of them. And then here's the part that nobody likes doing, but if you want, unless you somehow know how to go viral with, you know, intentionally, here's the part nobody likes. You have to shill like hell, join all sorts of Facebook groups and Twitter feeds and, you know, pimp it out there, and you still might do that, and you still might only get 50 views on things, but it's the way of the world. And then sometimes you get 2,000 and you'll never be able to find out the reason why. But the important thing is, if you just care about the video in the first place, then even if it only does get 50 views, you'll have appreciated those 50 views because they'll have been there specifically for you, and your subject. And the more obscure it is, you know they're definitely there because they're saying, hey look, somebody's actually covering that weird thing that I like. I never thought somebody would talk about you know, what's sitting next to me. I never thought that somebody would do a video on Tunes of Glory with Alec Guinness and John Mills. Might do a video on that now. So just do you, and have your own. Just if your style is laid back and, you know, just bullshitting like this, do that. If you are someone who wants to come up with graphics and that suits you, and come up with an intro, do that. I prefer this lo-fi, lazy, personality-driven concept. So good luck with it. Keep me posted. Dominic Cucci, hello Dominic. I've been enjoying talking to you, and I would like seeing your name come up because it sounds like something from The Godfather. Dominic Cucci, to see you, Godfather. Dominic, you've not been to see a Godfather in so long. Where have you been, Dominic? I've really been enjoying our conversations. Well, thank you. Me too, as I said. These are probably some really basic questions. Good, I may have a chance with them. Oh no, but then you do what I said. I want lists. 10 70s and 80s music bands that you have never cared for. Maybe you gave their music a try, however, you just don't enjoy. I can't come up with 10 off the top of my head. 70s. Eagles. Hate the fucking Eagles. Can't stand the Eagles. They were designed, they were as big a boy band as any corporate shill entity ever. They took the band, they took the Flying Burrito Brothers, and they just shaved the edges off to make it palpable for the masses. And I hate the fucking Eagles. I don't care how good the harmonies are. The harmonies in the band are better. I don't care Oh, that sounds good. So no, Hotel California. Don't give a fuck. The only good thing about the Eagles is they kept Joe Walsh and cocaine for a while. It's the only good thing about the Eagles. And Glenn Fry, biggest prick ever. And I know he's dead, right? But I never fucking killed him. But I fucking hated Glenn Fly. Fly. Glenn Fly. Quite like Don Henley's solo career though. 80s Bon Jovi. Don't get it. I don't get it at all. I just hear noise. John Bon Jovi's not a great singer. Always sounds overwrought. I know people say the band are fantastic and things. I don't even hear that. I don't hear any originality in the playing. Let's give you a controversial one. Voice-wise, I don't like Tom Petty. Don't wanna be like a refugee. But people like Dylan's voice, but like Tom Petty. What up with that? Yeah, Dylan in the 70s could have sing Tom Petty any day of the fucking week. Up, down, left, right, any way you want. 15 horror films. I'm not doing 15, sorry. From the 80s VHS craze that you saw on video, DVD or Blu-ray that you were really disappointed with. Let's say to the point that you'd never own in any format. Ghoulies. Just Gremlins rip-offs, man. Munchies. Just Gremlins rip-offs, man. Leprechaun. Just Leprechaun rip-offs, man. Nah, I can't stand any of those. Gosh, it's hard to think of ones that you just don't care enough about, because I'd probably just put them in my mind if I really don't give a Wishmaster. It's come back to you in that. And my first love, there's only you in my life. Anne and I, co-colleagues, we worked together for a few years, and she was my wee work ma. Apart from Glasgow, which is obviously the best, which is your favourite town or city and why? Well, Anne, glad you asked. I love Paris in the springtime. I love Paris in the fall. Right. Paris, yeah. It's culturally wonderful. A weekend in Montmartre is better than a month in Amsterdam, trust me. Yeah, for high culture and for the lowest culture but the most fun, Paris, you can do it all. You can do it all and then some. I'm interested. I know you worked in a record shop, which, yes, lost in music, R.I.P., which obviously contributed to your love and knowledge of music. I'm interested to know what sparked your love of movies, any particular film that you remember and love from when you were a wee boy. Yes, my dad sparked my love of movies. And I've told this story before, and I think people think it's just me being silly. Perfectly true. My dad wouldn't let us watch Disney movies, or any kids' movies, because he wasn't going to put up with that kind of shit. So I knew who Burt Lancaster was. I knew who Edward G. Robinson was before I knew who Mickey and Bugs were. I didn't see E.T. until I was 30 or so. So I was watching the film classics of the 30s through the 70s and 80s before I saw, any classic children's movies. Any. The only one that he would let us watch was Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and that is with him and my mother. My father still passed, but my mother, they both always called me Darby. To this day, she still calls me Darby. I have watched a few documentaries about Jimmy Cagney, and he had a really interesting life. I enjoy watching biopics. Why do you think they've never done a Jimmy one? Same reason they've never done an Edward G. Robinson one. His life was interesting, but not interesting enough for a film, I don't think. There was no great drama. There was no great struggle. There was no massive thing. Like if you did a Clark Gable one, you get the death of Carol Lombard and going to war. If you do, you could do one on, like the Dalton Trumbo one, where they have the Hollywood Blacklist, that kind of thing. That's story that's got an arc and things. The Jimmy one, you know, he struggles a bit and works his way up and learns, you know, the vaudeville scene, and then becomes a film star and great movies. Did a great biopic himself of Lon Chaney's career, The Man of a Thousand Faces, and then gave it all up after 1, 2, 3, the Billy Wilder movie in 1961, and retired from movies for 20 years. Just kept a quiet life in New York. Came back to do Ragtime, 1983, the Milos Forman movie, and then died a couple of years later. There's no great story there for a movie. But yeah, I mean, I love Jimmy Cagney. Angels with Dirty Faces is one that me and my dad would watch together. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. We watched that together religiously. Let's see. Harold Gervais, hello, asks if I could pick only one film to get the total lavish super deluxe treatment, what film would it be, and who would be doing the honours, what company? Gosh, everything's come out by now. Freaks hasn't been released. I think there'll be Warner's who would be doing it. I'd like that to get a release. Obviously, we know the Peter Jackson and Jim Cameron movies have been held up by them themselves. I'd like them to get a release. Who would ideally put it out? We know they're just going to come out through studios, but ideally, their Arrow projects. Yeah. Freaks would be the classic kind of film that I'm thinking of. Meet John Doe. That's never come out. Meet John Doe with Gary Cooper. I think that would also have to be Warner's, but I'd like that ideally to be an indicator, and they could do a great job with Meet John Doe. Howard also asks top 5 Bob Dylan songs. Number 1 with the Bullet, Blame Willie McTell. One of the greatest songs ever written and performed by anybody. And it's just him on piano and Martin Knopfler on guitar. Stunning. Number 2, High Water Everywhere for Charlie Patton from Love and Theft. Number 3, She's Your Lover Now from the Bootleg Series 1 to 3. Number 4, Black Diamond Bay from Desire. Number 6, Queen Jane approximately, maybe. That's off the top of my head just now, but yeah, those are ones that just now would be, again, as you and I both know, that answer would change totally tomorrow. What album have you listened to most in your life? The Band, by far. I must have, and Love and Theft by Dylan would probably be second. I've worn out copies of those albums easily. Yeah, brown sauce or ketchup on chips? Neither. Chips are obviously what we call fries over here. Harold knows that, being a Britophile himself. I just lightly salt them. But I just do take ketchup onto some things, and I do love brown sauce or HP sauce, Houses of Parliament sauce. Someone who's never seen an episode of Doctor Who before, which serial do you hand them to start with? For the modern series, start with Rose, the very first episode back with Christopher Eccleston, or The 11th Hour, the first Matt Smith episode, which is a great soft reboot. For the classic series, it's hard to say start at the beginning, because then you have the whole lost episodes thing. To say this is what the classic series was like, I'd probably just give them Tomb of the Cybermen. Classic monsters, 4-parter, so it's not a big long one like a 6-part or something. And it kind of encapsulates all that's good and great about good versus evil in Doctor Who. Maybe City of Death as well for a more fun one. Gives them that Douglas Adams humour. Johnny Boy, Jonathan Timberlake, who has been on this very channel, sitting next to me while we did a whole video. Things went a bit chaotic. Favourite release you've picked up in the last 12 months? crikey. I mean, that Shawscope box set, Volume 2, that I did on my end of year list was great. Crikey, I mean, go through my monthly videos and you'll pretty much see a lot of stuff that, you know, I just absolutely, I mean, we're getting some great martial arts stuff that's coming out now. One that I'm very much hoping will be on that list is one that film blogger Sam recommended, the Pimini Organisation, so I'm looking forward to watching that. What upcoming release are you most hyped for? Oh crikey, I don't know. I kind of let them come to me, but there's a bundle coming from Arrow, from Indicator, where we're getting like Ernst Lubitsch movies and stuff that haven't been on Blu-ray before, which I'm really looking forward to. What are your thoughts on the current trend to releasing new films via streaming services at the same time, or in some cases before they've had a theatrical release? It doesn't bother me. I think it's just the way of the world now. Films make money in different ways, so certain films are never going to see physical release because they're owned by the House of Mouse. Certain films are never going to be considered profitable enough to be theatrical releases anymore. The world has changed so much. There's not really that mid-budget 40 million movie anymore that it used to be in the 90s. It's either low budget or insanely huge budget and very little in the middle. If it's in the middle, it tends to be the streaming stuff nowadays. David Lynch once described Eraserhead as his most spiritual film. When asked if he would like to elaborate on this, his response was no. So my question, would you care to elaborate on his original statement? No. Besides, it's Fire Walk With Me. Johnny Clouser, Johnny Metal, hope you're feeling okay, my friend. Did you watch the In Search of Darkness documentaries? Yeah, I did, but I don't really need 3 hours of just going over the films that I know really well. So the second and third ones were kind of better because they were going a bit more obscure. I really don't need to be told anything about The Thing. I really don't. I really don't need somebody telling me about Terminator, you know? Yeah. Tyler Gopian, hello Tyler, hello T from LP Tremors. Rank the Neil Young Ditch albums. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Top of the Pops is On the Beach, because that's my favourite Neil Young album anyway, so it has to be top. Second place would be Time Fades Away, an underrated masterpiece. A live album of all new songs, which flopped notoriously at the time, and their time has come now. It sounds like the lo-fi revolution beginning 20 years before it did. And then bottom would be Tonight's the Night, and it's still a 5 out of 5 album, so that shows you how good the Ditch trilogy is. Least favourite Neil Young album, Broken Arrow. It just sounds like Neil and Crazy Horse doing Neil and Crazy Horse. That's all, you know, nothing inspired about it. First horror movie you fell in love with, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the one I remember watching with my dad and just cheering when Johnny Depp just explodes onto the ceiling, just gushing blood upwards. That was brilliant. Favourite horror director, George Romero probably, John Carpenter, probably more. And back in the day, more of a producer obviously, but Val Lewton. James Whale did some of the classics, you know, like Bride of Frankenstein, and The Old Dark House, so he's got to be in the conversation. More recently, Ben Wheatley and Robert Eggers. Favourite modern horror movies post 2010? Well, the films of Ben Wheatley and Robert Eggers. So, you know, post 2010, so you'd have like The Witch and The Lighthouse, and you'd have, for Ben Wheatley, you'd have Field in England, great folk horror, trippy stuff, Sightseers, brilliant dark comedy horror, and Kill List. I can't remember if that was quite 2010 or maybe 2009, but we'll include it. The one record that means the most to you, maybe Harvest by Neil Young, because I've got my dad's copy, so whenever I listen to it, I listen to his copy. Michael Wayne asks, haggis for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or just a snack? Just kidding, but I'll answer that anyway. Any time of day is a good time for haggis, man. Best music movies, well, you didn't see documentaries like Tony did, so best music movies, Stop Making Sense would be up there. I'd say that's pretty much the high water mark. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling Stones. Favourite light beer? Just kidding. Glad you are, because I've never drunk the stuff. Is Game of Thrones the best fantasy series ever? Nope, you can't have it be the best if half of it is total fucking shit. And it went for the last 3-4 seasons. So I'd say as recently as His Dark Materials, that is better. So if we could just give peace a chance, would we? Well, we would. But as Ocean Colour Scene told us in the 90s, there's no profit in peace. So they wouldn't, that's the problem. Erin, hello Erin, nice to see you. My question is, can you name some bands, solo artists from your hometown that are only known in Scotland, but should have been successful internationally based on the quality of their music? I mean, a lot did achieve a modicum of success in the US thanks to college radio and things, you know, like Big Country, The Blue Nile, Belle and Sebastian. And then modern days they achieve these things through lists, you know, it's kind of cool to be in the... Well, I like the British stuff, so, you know, some Scottish stuff will sneak in there. One Scottish band that really should have made it outside of Scotland and internationally, The Big Dish from the 80s, great pop band. In terms of Scottish bands who should be much better known because they just had hooks galore and they were doing the kind of cool blue-eyed soul. Deacon Blue, man. Deacon Blue. That ship... called Dignity. And last question from Arturo. Hello Arturo, thanks for your support, my friends. Davey, how do you take in so much music and film and still be able to speak so well and informatively on each subject? I think it's incredible, bro. Well, thank you, bro. Bruh. Yeah, don't. They say the best way to be an expert is something that takes 10,000 hours of just doing it. Throughout your life, how many thousands of hours of music and film have you taken in? So if you take it in more than passively, you're going to pick up stuff. So I'd say just naturally through a curious mind, and if I love a film, love an album, I want to know the story of it, I want to know the band, I want to know what inspired this, I want to know what led to that, what came before, what came next, what did it inspire, what were its inspirations. So yeah, how do I have the time for all? Well, priorities. Film and music. That's the last question. My last question though is for you, and it is, are you going to stay safe out there? And do you need some love and mercy? Well, have some love and mercy to you and your friends tonight. And if you didn't see the announcement of the Q&As on Facebook or YouTube community pages and you want to ask any below in the comments, I will answer them as an addendum on a separate video. You know, maybe a totally random one, you know. But anyway, I'll answer it. I never leave anybody hanging. But yeah, as I said, love and mercy, and stay safe out there. And look for the review of Tunes of Glory coming soon from somebody else's channel.